Welcome, viewing several once again. I think this is episode 49 of my little series I like to call Hands Up, Who Loves a Train Set? Me. So, today we're going to be looking at this Trix Twin Railways. Now, this was in very poor condition, but I didn't pay much for it. I bought it because I thought, well, I'll just get it. I was after some track and this is a 12 volt set, so I thought, well, I'll get the 12 volt set. I'm always interested in the twin rails. I've got some of this track already. It's the fiberboard 3-rail track, which is quite a nice system. And really, at some point, what I would like to do is to run it with the twin things. But the box was obviously falling to bits, so I've tried to patch it up just enough to hold it together. So yeah, we can see this is an 06, it's called the 060 goods set, and it's very difficult to find out very much about this sort of thing, because even the websites, they don't really have a lot of information on them. Now, Trix obviously were originally a German company, and they're involved with Bing, and then they got involved with Bassett-Loke in this country pre-war, and then they were the kind of Nazis had anti-Semitic legislation, which meant Stefan Bing left Germany, and he came over to Britain, and they started selling sets in the UK, and eventually they made UK outline stuff. But over the history, it was quite a short history, but it goes back before Hornby 00 even came out, and they offered originally 14 volt AC sets. There was a 6 volt DC system, which was really for battery operation for younger enthusiasts, but it's the same track as in here, and you got the later sets had a 12 volt DC, but by the time apparently fateful decision to stay with the 14 volt AC when everybody else was using 12 volt DC. So the thing was, they eventually, I think, did have a 2-rail system, but I've never seen any of it. I think it must have come out very near the end, because I've never seen any Trix twin rail, 2-rail, but you know, there's not that much of it about. They were this is kind of, I think from the guide, the locomotive in here came out in 1961, so it had a couple of good years in the early to mid 60s, and then it kind of, they were losing ground to the other systems. You had the Playcraft stuff covering the low end affordable stuff. You had the dominance really by then of the Triang railways, and then Hornby 00, which brought its 2-rail out too late, and they got absorbed and bought by Triang railways, become Triang Hornby. And really after that, I think Trix had kind of had it. I mean, they did come back, they did do some N-gauge as mini Trix, but that ended up under Hornby brand as well at some point, so they've all kind of bought one another over the years. But the interesting thing about this is, the unique thing was they could run 2 trains on an analog system, but also over the years they kept chopping and changing, and maybe that's one of the reasons why they didn't do so well, is they kept changing the system. They changed the track, they changed the voltages, and even AC to DC. And not just that, they also were fiddling around with the scale, so they had some HO stuff, and then they kind of ended up with 00, but there was a period in between where it was like 3.8mm scale, which is sort of roughly halfway between HO and 00, so kind of a bit mad really. I'm not sure, this set, I think it does look a bit, well, when we look at it we'll see the loco looks as though it's either HO or possibly that in-between scale. But yeah, what's left of the box, you can see the box art is quite nice. But there we go. We're going to have a look inside in a minute. Before we do that though, in the old Ramsey book, you can see there's a sort of potted history of Trix here. So you can see it changing hands, and you know, they do well up until the 1940s, and then the 50s they had a bit of a resurgence. Interesting enough, the sets from the 50s are the ones that are worth the least. They're the ones with the Bakelite base 3-rail, and I think they're the 14-volt ones, and they're really not worth, but none of it fetches that much money, apart from maybe there's 1 or 2 locomotives that are desirable, like this 2-rail EM1, which is they still fetch quite a good price. So the locomotive in this set is actually listed here, Southern Rail Class E2. It says it's HO, so that confirms that. Produced 1961 to 66 in the 3-rail guise. So that's what we've got in here. Now, Hornby did an E2, but it was a very short-lived one because it was turned, the tooling was taken and used to produce Thomas tank engine models. So that didn't last particularly long. So there's not that many people made this one, but it's an 060, so it's very similar looking to the Ginty. So it's kind of like the equivalent of that. So when we have a look inside, we'll see that. And if we just quickly go to the end of the chapter here on Trix, it's quite a short one. You can see we looked at the previous set, we saw one of these are the tin plate ones. This set has got the newer plastic wagons, which they started bringing in the 60s. So I got one of these, 1960 they came in, and it says here, I mean it says they were produced up until the early 70s. And there are ones that says 74 to 90, but I don't really know what that is. But you can see here the number of different types of sets. So I got one like this. This is the flip lid box. Apparently these are worth the least. And then you've got all these different types. This one's not even pictured, and neither is my cadet system. I nearly bought one of those. They're the ones with the kind of whistling controller. They seem like quite a good set. I think they're 12-volt DC. And then some of these old ones would be the AC ones. I've got an AC set that I need to put together, clean it up and see if we can get it working. So this was in poor condition, but it works and we've run it. So the next thing we'll do is we'll look inside. Right, this is inside the box, so we'll have a look at this locomotive first, shall we? So you can see it's got BR crest, and it's got the wheels in the middle, no flange. We've got this shoe style pickup in the middle, and then on this particular one, pickup on the other one is this side, so you're going that way with the power on this side and the power on the other side if you're going to go the other way. So yeah, this is the Southern Railway Class E2 060. And it says in the book that these had scale wheels, but they do look a bit unscale without the flange in the middle. It says this is HO rather than OO, so it's quite heavy. A very cheap plastic body. This was one of the low-end locos that was made for train sets. So the body is just like very, very cheap. But you know, this is 1961 we're talking about, so it ain't that bad. Runs okay. One thing it does have for it over the older locos, the modern locos, is it's got a die-cast chassis, and it's very heavy, and there's a big piece of die-cast metal that fills this boiler space, so it's a good weight. Now, in terms of the wagons, these are quite simple. These are Trix's plastic wagons. Guards van, 1960, that was introduced. Most of these came out then. Now these ones, they're not dissimilar to the Playcraft ones in that, and now it's a bit stiff, but in theory these are sliding doors, but yeah, it's very difficult to slide them just because of the age of the thing. But I did have them sliding, but I'm not gonna, there we go, but it comes off, so you've got to be careful. But they do slide, but they're obviously, yeah. But yeah, it's nice to have the sliding doors. You've got the option to open them. But yeah, they don't work that well now, but they, as I say, these are 65 years old or so. Now the box itself is not complete. Inside there should be some other bits of cardboard here, but we did get more track than I think you would get in the normal set. So this is the 3-rail fibreboard sleeper track, which came out I think in 1958. But as with Hornby's 002 rail, there was already a lot of better looking track with sleepers at the time, so they were competing with quite a few others. But I must say, I do like this track. Obviously this is because it's Trix, it's based on, it's slightly bent there, but you can easily bend it because these are hollow rails, which means they go together well, and the pickup's very good from that middle rail and the side rails. So it's quite a nice track. It works really well, and considering its age, it cleaned up nice. It was a little bit rusty. I've given it a rub over with the Pico rubber. Probably should have cleaned the wheels of the, because even the wheels on here are filthy. And you can see these wheels, the way they clip in, they're sort of held in by the that bit, so they keep falling out. But yeah, this would have been the contents of this set. There were some wheels missing, and I did get this as well, which is another, which somebody's obviously bought as an extra, and I just took two of the axles off that one to complete this set. So there we are. I did open this up, but I'm not going to show it. It's very simple. All you do, it's like a lot of these older ones, you just unscrew, there's a screw in the chimney, you just take that out and then it just comes off, and it's a similar motor to the XO4. It's very, very similar. Commutator was very clean, but I gave it an extra clean, just a little bit of lube in the usual places. That's all it's had, and yeah, it seems to run all right, which you'll see in a minute. So let's get it set up and have a look at it running, shall we? Well, here we are on the track. So what have we got? Well, tonight I thought I'd have a Guinness, so while we run this round, so we got it working, it's running okay. And I've set up a basic loop. Now I believe that this loop, so these are, you need 6 of these to make a semicircle, so I guess they're 30 degrees, and so yeah, you've got 2 straights, and then the first, and it's actually quite a small curve, radius curve this. So I'm running with my H&M clipper because these older locos seem to go a bit better on that. So we'll start her off. Ooh, just been running it backwards, so we'll go the other way. So on this one, it's just the knob either way. You haven't got a direction switch. The other switches are for other things. not starting again, because I'll have to pour myself another pint. So yeah, I can't remember what I was saying, but yes, it runs well on this clipper. Nice little radius for my desk here. Right, I'm not sure if it'll all stay connected, but that's as fast as it'll go at the moment. Now I have cleaned it all up, and the magnet seems pretty strong, so I'm not going to remagnetise it. You know, I don't know whether these were ever designed to run really fast, but I think that's fast enough. And I'm going to come down to a more sensible speed. So what I was saying before I had the issue, these wagons, the couplings are made of like, it looks like spring steel, but I think it's template, because it's quite easy. It's a lot easier to bend than spring steel, although it might be spring steel. And before I could run it, I had to just make sure they were all level, because over the years they kind of get bent and then they'll decouple when they go over a bump and things like that. And I've got quite a lot of this track now, because with this, I think this is probably, you probably get a loop like this with this set, but I've got some more curves, I've got some more straights. So I've got quite a nice amount of this track if you include the other set, the 6-volt set. So I think soon I should be ready to give this a go with 2 controllers and 2 trains on the same track, just to try it out. I probably do need to get some points though, so I can have a passing loop, because there's not much else, you can't really, if you've only got a loop, there's not much point. But yeah, so let's just, if I put it on, I think that's the half wave, and we'll see if it'll, yeah, it's not inclined to crawl, super crawl. But I've only given this a quick clean and an oil. It's running pretty well considering it's 65 years old. So if we want to run the other way, I connect the power to the middle terminal and the one on the right. And going the other way, we had it the other way round. So yeah, we just, that's how the Trix Twin works. So I've just swapped it over. So we'll just get a couple of shots going the other way now. Here we go, look, let's go the other way. So yeah, you just change the connections the other way round to run that direction. Turn it up a bit. And so that's not bad at all.